That's where we're pointing. I normally do like this. Yeah, you guys can do whatever. Hey guys, I'm Rachel, joined by Mike Wang and Scott OG for another NBA 2KTV postseason show. You guys, the playoffs have been awesome, but before we start to talk about the conference semifinals, let's quickly recap round one. If you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, we simulated the first round of the playoffs in NBA 2K15, and our game was pretty close to predicting the final outcomes. So let's take a look. Round one simulation in the East had the Hawks going 6 games with the Nets, as our simulation predicted. Our simulation had some confidence in Toronto taking the Raptors-Wizards series to 7 games, but Washington came out strong to sweep the series. The Bucks rallied with the Bulls every single game, stretching the series to 6 games. However, the Bulls came out on top. And finally, the Cavs-Celtics series ended as many expected, with the Cavs moving on to the next round with a perfect record. Moving on to the Western Conference, we had a sweep by Golden State, who continues to prove their worth, knocking off Anthony Davis and the Pelicans in just 4 games. Our simulation was off in this series as the Grizzlies beat out the Blazers in just 5 games. Yet the Rockets and the Mavericks series was perfectly predicted as Houston took the round in 5. And probably the most talked about and exciting series of the first round was the Spurs-Clippers, being stretched to 7 games. Our simulation had the reigning world champion Spurs coming out on top, but it was the Lob City Clippers who pulled the series. All right, guys, so now it's time to talk about the conference semifinals. We're down to 4 teams in the West, 4 in the East. Let's start by breaking down the West. Our simulation had the Warriors beating the Grizzlies 4-1, and I could easily see that happening.
I think our sim is dead on, because that's about what I had as well.
It's interesting, our simulator had that one win from the Grizzlies being a buzzer beater too, so it was a close game the whole way, and they almost got swept, and I can't really argue with simulator. This one seems right dead on.
Moving along to the Clippers Rockets, I think that this one is very interesting because our simulator in round one had the Spurs coming out on top over the Clippers. Well, they had a crazy series. Clippers win. And then our simulator has the Clippers coming out on top over the Rockets 4-2, which I agree with. But I think it's a little bit interesting because our simulator had the Clippers losing first round.
Yeah, the Rockets, how do you not beat LA with Chris Paul sitting out? I don't get that.
Right.
Yeah. That was a big loss.
That was a big indicator of this series is not going to be so good if you
losing game 1 at home is huge, especially to the Clippers. But Harden has struggled against the Clippers all year. I think 3 out of the 4 matchups, they've held them in the low 20s or below 20. So it's tough. Doc's a great defensive coach, and because the Rockets take a lot of bad shots and they have a lot of wasted possessions, and you can't do that in the playoffs.
I think the Rockets are pretty. I think they're a deep team, and I actually had them winning this series. Well, especially when Chris Paul went down. But after game 1, I'm like, wow, are they really? I feel like they're just not. They don't have that heart of a champion that seems to want to win.
All right, so we have the Warriors and Clippers coming out of the West, which would be awesome if that actually happens because they don't like each other, and that just makes the matchup even crazier. All right, moving along to the East, we have the Hawks and the Wizards going 6 games. Hawks on top.
I think the Wizards have one of the best starting 5s in the playoffs. I love them. I love all 5 of their starters, and that's the Wall and Beal injuries. It's really going to come down to that.
I think if it goes 7, usually those games are typically toss-ups, but I like the home team in that.
The Hawks are kind of like, you're like, who's the star? Their whole starting 5 are the stars of the team. Do you think that had something to do with how our simulation pulled off the...
It's interesting because you'd think that it would favor the Wizards more.
Right.
Based on the way our game works, but because we're actually, I'm spending a lot of time with my engineers right now on 2K16 trying to make chemistry a bigger aspect of the game going forward. But our simulator does a good job of it.
Now moving along to the Bulls and Cavaliers, and I'll talk about the simulation. We ran this simulation twice. The first time we ran with a full Cavs roster, and the second time with no JR for 2 games and no Kevin Love for all games, and the results were exactly the same.
It's clearly wrong, Rachel. And the Bulls are going to win this in 7.
Right here.
They're going to win it in 7, and I don't see how anyone can disagree with that. It's going to be...
You like the Bulls on the road in 7?
I do. I think the Bulls are going to win in 7, but, you know, no Kevin Love, and the Bulls, our game isn't going to reflect what real life is doing right now with the Bulls, and they are right now at a point where they're finally clicking and peaking in the playoffs, which hasn't happened since MJ was around.
Like Mike alluded to earlier, you know, I think for us in 16 too is just making it more about the team. So I'm sure these teams are more adaptive now as the series continues. Cleveland plays a lot of isolation basketball as they did in Game 1, and Chicago's defense is going to eat that alive if they continue to play that way. And with no JR, no Kevin Love to spread the floor, a lot of continuity and a lot of flexibility that they had within their offense kind of goes out the window.
We were just talking about Derrick Rose. I want to know who your guys' favorite point guard is to use in NBA 2K.
Mine is Chris Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the best floor general in our game today. That's how I like to play. I like to control every facet of the game, spread the floor, a lot of pick and roll, prioritize spacing and all that kind of stuff. So to be another coach on the floor.
Oh, my obvious choice would be D Rose, but right now I'm loving playing with Steph Curry. We've been spending some time getting his sig layups right. So he's got his nice scoop layup now, and his jumper is finally getting closer to closest we can get it to be to how he shoots in real life, and he's a lot of fun to play with, and I just love what he's doing right now, and being the MVP is just, I guess I'm a bandwagon.
Shout out to Steph Curry for winning MVP. I like using Kyrie.
Is this a Cleveland thing?
Big surprise.
It might be, but I like using Kyrie even more than I do LeBron.
He's fun to play with.
He's really fun to play with. I think take all of my shots with Kyrie.
Well, yeah,
for anybody who ever plays against me, like spoiler alert. So now that we've shared our favorite point guards to use in NBA 2K, it's time to find out who the community likes to use. And now it's time to check out the best blocks of the season. Boom! That kind of block.
Give me that! Give me that!
Just 5 on the clock. It's going to be a 24-second shot clock violation.
Thanks for tuning in to another NBA 2K TV postseason show. Thank you guys again for joining me. High fives. All right, guys, and I want to know your NBA Finals predictions, so make sure that you let me know on social media using the hashtag 2KTVFinals. And we'll see you next time.